Hi, I'm Gigi Weisenfeld, a subject matter expert at the PDG B5 TA Center, as well as a research professor at NEAR, the National Institute for Early Education Research, housed at Rutgers University. I am so pleased to be able to welcome you to this opening session. How and why should state leaders support local efforts in creating a comprehensive, responsive, and aligned ECE system? I'm extremely interested in this topic, in part because of my research on city pre-K efforts. For many years, NEAR has produced the State of Preschool Yearbook, and in the past 5 years has partnered with City Health to examine city programs using the same 10 NEAR benchmarks. As part of this project, I've been able to better understand some of the nuances, challenges, and benefits to implementing city preschool programs, in addition to the role of the state in supporting this work. Some of this will be covered in the concurrent sessions later today. Okay, there are advantages and disadvantages to being the last Strand on the 5th day of a 5-day conference. First, we've worked out all of the technical kinks. We know how to use the idea boards, how to adjust our lighting so we look good when we switch on our cameras for our concurrent sessions so we can see one another, how to move seamlessly between the conference website and our Zoom breakout rooms and back again, how to change your name on your Zoom picture so that we know what state you are from, how to answer your survey after sessions so we can use this information to plan next year's conference. Those are the advantages to be in the 7th Strand presentation in a week jammed packed. Okay, for the disadvantages. We are really tired. I'm on brain overload. So much good information is swirling about. We have listened to many states share their information, or you have shared. Thank you. So hang in there. We have one more concurrent session. Please take notes and remember to take a breath and take this time for yourself and your state. When I think about PDG B5, I think about making connections and building relationships. We ask you as state leaders to connect departments within your state, maybe some that haven't collaborated in the past, as you strengthen the early childhood B5 system that touches children and their families. Another part of building relationships happens with TA providers and subject matter experts. Over the years, I've met many of our team members at the PDG B5 TA Center, but in the past few months, I've gotten to know some of you for the first time, most notably Howard Morrison. Howard and I became co-planners for the Strand. Let me tell you a little bit about Howard. Howard is a TA specialist for the PDG B5 TA Center. He's not only a data TA person, having worked with North Dakota on their integrated data system, but also a former state employee. He was the statewide coordinator in the Early Childhood Education Division of the Texas Education Agency for more than 11 years. When we finish providing a high-level overview of the Strand, I'm going to ask Howard some questions about Texas. So as you all probably know by now, there are 6 concurrent sessions. Since you are not able to attend them all, we thought we would provide an overview of them. In many states, local jurisdictions are responsible for identifying the ways that state ECE policies can be implemented responsibly within their communities. Some states have developed formalized systems that encourage cross-sector partnerships that are aligned and coordinated at the local level. These systems include expectations and structures to ensure regular communication between local entities and the state. Other local efforts and unique community characteristics need to be understood by the state so that policies are aligned and are responsive to the needs of all young children. When I think about building capacity for local ECE systems building, the title of this Strand, I think about the structures that must be in place to support this work. When I worked in Hawaii before I was in the governor's office, I was the P3 Director of Early Learning. In this position, I oversaw 5 local P3 hubs. Each looked slightly different, but they had expectations for aligning standards, addressing P3 leadership, and including both public schools and community-based providers in planning and decision-making. This work was supported by Christy Cowers, Director of the National P3 Center, who came to Hawaii often to help us with our system building efforts. I know many of you have already seen Christy and Julia Kaufman's framework for planning, implementing, and evaluating P3 approaches, but what you may not know is that it was updated last year. It may be helpful in your system building work to revisit this framework. Information is broken down into thinking about policy and practice changes that need to happen at different levels, including the local level. Building local hubs happen in many states, not all, and they look very different in structure and practice. Some states, such as Minnesota, have worked very hard on creating an aligned P3 system, focusing, not exclusively, but in part, in creating a comprehensive system for educating school leaders, such as principals, on early childhood education. I find their modules extremely helpful. Louisiana has created Ready Start networks that are supported by the state and defined in state statute. Some states have had state investments or have leveraged federal funds to support this work. Even still, we know it is not enough. Building upon the work of yesterday's Strand 6 on governing and finance, we need to identify more funding sources and figure out what we want to accomplish with those dollars. There are different ways states have partnered with private funders to support the B5 system building work. In Section 6, we'll be hearing from both Mississippi and Idaho. Both states have been able to use public-private partnerships to create local collaboratives. Mississippi's are defined in state statute. The collaboratives are partnerships among school districts, Head Start agencies, child care centers, and nonprofit organizations. Idaho, through Idaho AEYC, has created early learning collaboratives, which support communities in creating a governing body to support the early learning system, focusing on the whole child, whole family, and whole community. These partnerships look different from one another, but both support local efforts in increasing access to high-quality services for young children in their respective states. Another example of a state that has used public-private partnerships effectively is Nebraska with its Sixpence work. Sixpence funds locally designed and managed partnerships that are highly responsive to the needs of the families where they live. Started in 2006, these partnerships bring together funding, resources, and expertise to support children birth to age 3. Each Sixpence funded partnership consists of the community school district working closely with various organizations, agencies, and service providers who match their grants through local funding funds and resources. Now we're going to hear from my colleague Howard to talk about the other 4 strands.
Okay, thanks Gigi. I'm going to focus on why it's critical for state leaders to understand the benefits of establishing local networks. To build a strong early care and education system, communities must come together to discuss how to improve outcomes for children and families by identifying issues, exploring the root causes of problems, and developing and implementing solutions. The benefits of establishing local communities and networks allows multiple agencies, organizations, and families working together to increase the available resources and provide greater benefits to the communities so they may continue to build a collective impact to influence systems and create change. There are multiple strategies states can utilize to implement a comprehensive and aligned early care and education system. This process takes time and is ongoing. All of the systems that make up a community need to be aligned and coordinated in a way that builds on strengths of the community, recognizes the challenges that families face, and addresses disparities across the community. Some example strategies to implement a comprehensive and aligned early care and education system are to engage the voice and input of community leaders in system building and strategic planning processes, create a collaborative approach to understanding and addressing community issues, building on strengths and addressing community concerns, foster cross-sector collaboration and sharing of resources and creative ideas across community members and partners, promote inclusion, engagement, ownership, and ultimately empowerment of community members. Ultimately, building capacity, community capacity to work together. We are seeing this work in action in a number of states. I'm going to provide some examples of how states are doing this in rural communities, programs that are supporting local entities to be more inclusive, programs monitoring and measuring local ECE efforts, And lastly, communities that are aligning city and state preschool efforts to increase access. When we look at how states are supporting early learning rural communities, states like Washington have supported rural early learning communities through shared resource networks. Their Help Me Grow program is a framework for different communities to maximize their existing resources to make sure everyone feels supported. Through Help Me Grow, families can access the resources and supports they needed, such as quality early learning, parent support, nutrition services, and healthcare. In Arkansas, they've created a network of behavior support specialists to provide technical assistance and professional development to promote positive behavioral outcomes for students. Oregon is another great example of the Blue Mountain Early Learning Hub in rural Eastern Oregon. They bring together family childcare providers, community-based pre-kindergarten teachers, and early elementary school teachers and professional learning teams, and meet monthly to learn about specific topics. It's important for a state to develop ways to support local entities of being more inclusive. In the All Children Learn and Thrive resource, the goal of the first 10 schools and community is for all children to learn and thrive. This is an educational equity goal, meaning that all children receive what they need in order to develop to their full academic and social potential. Realizing that this goal requires that communities do many things, such as ensuring that all children have equal opportunities, eliminate the predictability of success of failure that currently correlates with any social, economic, or cultural factor, including race, identify and end inequitable practices, and create inclusive environments for adults and children. There are many states that are already doing this well, but I would like to spotlight Colorado's Pyramid Model Implementation Toolkit, which is designed to assist and guide effective implementation of the Pyramid Model through utilizing the framework developed by the National Implementation Research Network. Virginia has developed the Virginia Early Childhood Inclusion Guidance Document, which is designed to assist Virginia school divisions and early childhood communities in identifying, developing, and sustaining inclusive practices. A few examples of how states are monitoring and measuring local ECE implementation efforts. Maryland has a great program where they have implemented local early learning advisory councils, which are designed to support the capacity of the councils to serve as local governance entities. In Florida, the Office of Early Learning monitors the early learning coalitions to be sure they're using state and federal resources effectively to provide quality early childhood education. Lastly, I'd like to just share a few examples of how city and state preschool efforts are aligning to increase access. Ohio has multiple efforts across Columbus, Cincinnati, and Ohio. Texas has done some great work with their pre-K for San Antonio, which is paid for by a city tax and state funds. Seattle has some great new initiatives. New York City's universal pre-K program. Colorado with their Denver preschool program. And this past November in Portland passed a measure that will not only create preschool, but increase the wages of teachers to be on par with public school teachers. This is a huge win for Portland, and this measure is expected to raise $202 million a year.
Thank you, Howard. And so I have a few questions for you. So you're from Texas, as I mentioned. You were previously at the State Education Agency, TEA. Could you share some of the work on public-private partnerships that you were involved with?
Sure. There's a few initiatives that come to mind in that work. One of those is the Texas School Ready program. That was a project that I worked on that established a lead agent in the community to form local partnerships with public pre-K, Head Start, and childcare that supported high quality curriculum, joint professional development, coaching, and child progress monitoring. Another really exciting initiative was the Regional Early Childhood Support Specialists. This was awarded to a local community or organization to support public-private partnerships in targeting birth to 5 programs. Some examples of that work were supporting blended and braided funding, establishing MOUs, in navigating the different governance structures within those communities. Lastly, an initiative called Community Partnerships. These were local programs called School Readiness Working Groups, and they're mostly consisted of early childhood specialists, childcare providers, social service providers, parents, community volunteers, really to align programs and resources to increase the percentage of children who are starting school ready to learn.
Thank you. I mean, as we all know, Texas is not only a very large state, but there's lots of efforts happening at the local level, some of which you just mentioned. So how did you as a state person keep a handle on what was happening? You know, were there any systems in place to allow you to help do your work?
Sure. Well, there were definitely a lot of balls to juggle. One of my primary networks was our regional education service centers. There's 20 in the state of Texas, and each regional education service center has an identified early childhood specialist and sometimes more. We would have monthly community updates and covered specific topics throughout the year. This often included guest presenters, for example, connecting with your local homeless education liaison at your school district, how to collaborate with their early childhood special education contact, and potentially identifying and working with your data team to understand what the data needs are and how to develop and use the data that's publicly available. Another example would be our early childhood education network, or an example of that network is that network often resulted in subgroups. And those subgroups often created communities of practice that we'd focus on. And so some of those community of practices consisted of co-ops for shared PD with public pre-K, Head Start, and childcare communities to align cross-sector collaboration. And then there were a few councils that we were involved with. We had an early childhood systems work group, which was a collaboration of 6 state agencies working together to identify, coordinate, really look at those initiatives of young children. And this group developed goals, indicators, and how we could really measure that work, and then ultimately populating that work in a dashboard at the aggregate level to share to our policy leaders. A few of the other small examples were just our early childhood advisory councils with representatives across the states. And then lastly, our Texas governor and our Texas Workforce Commission and our state education agency hosted an annual early childhood conference, inviting folks from across the state to really bring some of the local innovative ideas that were happening across the state.
Thanks, Howard. I know I could ask you lots more questions, but I think I'll have to save it till our next annual convening because we have to move on to our concurrent session. So I'm going to throw it back to you to provide some of the logistics.
Great. Thank you so much, Gigi. So, all right. So just a few logistics. So how to access your next section. Make sure you go to the My Schedule tab, open the concurrent session that you are registered for in Strand 7, and then click the Join Session button in the middle of the banner. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the concurrent sessions at the top of the hour. So you have about 10 minutes before your next session will start. So take a moment, stand up and stretch, get a drink of water, take a little break, and we look forward to seeing you soon.